If you're planning a trip to Japan, then this is the video for you. So I just got back from Japan and it was incredible. This time I went with my sister Shirley and her 4-month-old Andreas, and we learned a lot on this trip. There's just so much about Japanese culture, unspoken norms and traditions that I wanted to make this video because I wish there was a video like this before I went to Japan. It would have made my trip so much smoother. And if you haven't seen my Japan vlog yet, make sure to watch that next because I also put in a lot of tips in there and you get to see my time there in Japan and how much I loved it, and it'll get some like inspiration of what you can do and some itinerary things that you want to add. But I am no expert. There are so many more other people out there that can educate you more about Japanese culture, tradition, and norms, but I am just sharing my perspective and my experience when I was there. So please be gentle with me. Without further ado, let's get into it. This is my number one tip is avoid traveling with large suitcases and don't overpack them. And I say this because hotels in Japan, the rooms are really small. So there's really not a lot of space where you can lay out your luggages, especially if you're going to the cities like Osaka and Tokyo. So a lot of times you'll want to like put away your luggage, or there's only space for like 1 or 2 luggages. And also if you're traveling around to the different cities, if you're taking the train, there's not a lot of luggage space or you have to like buy luggage space for your luggages. So just highly recommend travel as light as possible. Second tip is that hotel amenities are incredible, and anything you can need, you could probably get it at the hotel, or there's going to be a convenience store nearby. So hotels in Japan provide every toiletry you may need: shampoo, conditioner, body wash, body sponges or washcloths, toothbrush, toothpaste, hairbrushes, razors, cotton pads, swabs, slippers, robes for the public bath. A lot of the hotels also provided pajamas for us. You just provide everything you can need, and if not, you can buy it very easily and it's like very affordable. So recommend just bringing as little as possible and buying when you're there. 3, book accommodations in advance. So top accommodations in Japan might book weeks or even months in advance. This is probably the first thing you should do. I like to travel solo without an itinerary a lot of times, as you can see in my videos. But for Japan, I highly recommend not doing that because there are certain ones that you really want to book, like a traditional ryokan hotel or something that you've seen with like amazing views of Mount Fuji. Like those will definitely sell out, so you definitely want to book those in advance. I also highly recommend booking it directly from their website or using like booking.com. That's how we booked everything, was just through booking.com. It's so easy to book and we booked everything on there. 4, back to the luggages. Use luggage transfer services to ship your luggage from one hotel to the next or even to the airport. That way you don't have to carry your luggage with you on the subway area. So we moved our own luggages from Osaka to Kyoto and it was so tiring. There's just so many people as well, so you're just like lugging your suitcases, trying to find like the elevators and escalators. So after that experience, we're like, okay, we just gotta use a luggage transfer service, and it was the best thing ever. So the cost depends on the size of your luggage, the measure it, and the distance that you are sending it. And if your hotel does not provide the service, like any of the convenience stores will do it for you. Do keep in mind that you have to send your luggage like at least a day before because it does take some time. A lot of public spaces have these lockers that you can just put your luggage into. So that's what we did. We put our luggage in, explored for the day, hop on the train with the luggage, and then our luggages would just ship to us the next day. Ooh, do not walk and eat at the same time. This is a big no-no in Japan. It's considered bad manners to be walking and eating in Japan. If you're buying like street food or convenient food, for example, you can stand and eat. If you walk to a different stall and eat in front of the stall, like a different food, that's also a no. It's kind of rude. You're eating someone else's food in front of their stall. We did like hold our food and walk, but didn't eat, and we're like stopped. And we saw people doing it. We think that was okay. So generally don't walk and eat. Japan offers tax-free shopping, so make sure you have your passport with you. Don Quixote, for example, you would have the regular price and then a price tag on there that was tax-free, so like a lower amount. So this was super helpful when we were shopping, especially like Don Quixote. You would just pay the tax-free amount. You just tell the cashier you are tax-free, have your passport in hand and hand it to them. But that way, instead of going to the airport and getting a refund a couple days, weeks later, you just pay the like tax-free amount. Get cash and carry a coin bag. I got this in Japan, I actually still have the tag on it, but it's one of those like cute coin bags that snaps A lot of places do take card, credit card, debit card, and there's just a lot of street food and food stalls, little shops that don't take card, and a lot of people do use cash in Japan. So having a coin bag is super convenient, and you never hand your cash or credit card directly to the cashier. What they'll do is have a tray, and you would put your card or cash on the tray, and then they would take the tray. So you never hand it directly to that person. Don't leave tips at restaurants. In Japan, employees maintain the highest standards when providing the service. So from my research to Japanese, attempting to tip suggests that the employer does not value them enough to provide a sufficient wage. So it's a little bit more insulting, but just leaving a tip isn't the same culture as it is here in the US. The next tip is, if you have time, arrive early to the train or subway station. It was so easy to get lost in there, especially if you're just not familiar with Japan. There are lots of entrances and exits, and there's lots of signs. So the extra time is really needed, at least for us. And I think that it is very overwhelming. So just having a little buffer time, being able to take it easy is just always a good idea. And also there's lots of shops and dining and convenience at the train and subway station. So you can go shopping and buy some snacks and stuff before you get on the subway train. Speaking of public transportation, don't be noisy on the subway. Japanese people prefer quiet in public places. This is also common in like shopping areas, subways, restaurants, public places. Very different from the US, again, where people are blasting music on the train. So be quiet on the train. This one is like a common tip that you'll see and hear. Allocate a meal at a convenience. It is a convenience store. They're open 24/7, and you can do like 7-Eleven, Lawson, Family Mart, any of them. And convenience stores in Japan are phenomenal. There's hot foods, bentos, noodles, you can get alcohol, so many snacks, drinks, and gotta get an egg sando, which is an egg sandwich. If you're going to Japan, please get an egg sando. All right, and speaking of meals, tip number 12, don't plan out your meals. I mean it. In major cities like Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto, there's food everywhere. So Tokyo has 160,000 restaurants. It's just in Tokyo alone. Can you guess how many restaurants there are in New York? Wrong. 25,000. That's a huge difference. Book a couple of restaurants in advance, make those reservations, but then the other one, just like explore. Just look up on maps when you're there to like find a restaurant or ask a hotel, ask someone there like what their favorite place is, and then go there instead. Speaking of Google Maps and looking up restaurants, this one blew my mind. If you go on my Google Maps, a 3 out of 5 star restaurant on Google Maps is considered really good. But I never saw a 4-star or 5-star restaurant on Google Maps. I was so confused by this because I thought, are restaurants just not good? But that's not true. Japanese people actually just rate restaurants on a really high standard. I think because everything is amazing in Japan, 3 stars is like really good. So if you see that, don't be deterred by a 3-star restaurant that's basically 5 stars. Tip number 14 is to stay at a traditional ryokan hotel with an onsen. So those are hot springs. These are traditional cultural hotels or houses. They also offer really good traditional Japanese breakfast or dinner. It's really popular and more commercialized, but we still had a great time. Do keep in mind that tattoos are not allowed in public onsen. For me, I cover up with the skin sticker. If you have a lot more tattoos that you can't cover, then I would recommend just booking a private onsen. You can do that. You will be fully naked and not allowed to wear a swimsuit at the public onsen. Be comfortable with that. Hey, it's a cultural experience. I highly recommend staying at least like 2 nights, but it was so worth it. I loved it. Keep your trash in your bag or pocket, or bring a bag to store your trash in. Japan is so clean. You'll never see trash around. And the thing is, there's also not a lot of like public trash bins. So if you have trash, what we did was we would bring our own plastic bag with us and then put the trash in, and at the end of the day we'll have a bag full of trash that we just throw out once we get back to the hotel. Everyone should have a translation app. I just use Google Translate. You can download an offline version, so if you don't have Wi-Fi, it would still work. But a lot of Japanese don't speak English. I think there's more now, but it's still hard to communicate in English. So we still frequently use Google Translate, type it in, show them the translation. Just so much easier and smoother. But also, if you're traveling, make sure to just learn some common phrases. I think the only 2 Japanese phrases that I learned was arigatou gozaimasu, which is thank you, and then suminasen, which is excuse me if you want to ask a question or something. So make sure to just learn some basic phrases in Japanese. I think it's just polite and appreciated. Number 17, bring your most comfortable shoes. In Japan, you will be walking a lot, like 30,000 steps minimum. It's a lot of walking, but also there's not a lot of public seating around. You're not able to like sit and rest a lot, so you'll be standing a lot more than usual. There's also a lot of stairs in Japan, so stairs, standing, walking a lot, wear comfy shoes. This one is also really important. My next tip is bring shoes that are easy to take off and put on. You will be taking off your shoes a lot. For example, if you're going to the changing room to try on clothes, like I went to Uniqlo and you gotta take your shoes off to try on clothes. Also, if you're going to like a traditional izakaya or restaurant to eat, sitting on the floor with mats, you have to take your shoes off. If you're staying at a traditional ryokan hotel, you also have to take your shoes off before entering the hotel. So you'll be taking your shoes off a lot. Wear something that's easy to put on and off. Oh, I love this tip because not a lot of people know about it. You should buy food at department stores at night. Basically, any of the supermarkets, like after 8 p.m., they'll discount their food because by law, they can't keep food overnight and then sell it again the next day. These foods are still very fresh, delicious, like so good, and it can be up to like 50% off discount. So if you're craving a late night snack, head to one of the supermarkets at night, get a cheap deal. Tip number 20, learn how to use a bidet toilet and appreciate it. I swear, I feel like every single bathroom in Japan, every toilet is one of those high-tech bidet Toto washlets, and it's phenomenal. It's life-changing and you should try it. You literally just push icons where it can wash and dry your area after you do your business. It's the best thing ever, and I feel like more bathrooms should have that. I actually have a Toto washlet at home and I love it. It is the best thing ever. I mean, we grew up with one, so it's like a necessity. It's normal, it's a norm. I'll link it too. You should check it out. Speaking of bathrooms, highly recommend bringing hand sanitizer or like a handkerchief napkin to dry your hands on. Sometimes they don't have soap. I think it's like an environmental thing of not having paper towels. I think usually they have the hand dryers. I didn't have a lot of issues with this, but do recommend bringing sanitizing wipes. Just a lot easier. Tip number 22, there are designated smoking areas. I'm not a smoker, and what I noticed is that there's no one smoking in public. There are designated rooms everywhere, like at restaurants, they have designated rooms, or even at parks, there were designated rooms. So I love that because you're just not breathing in secondhand smoke. Next tip is make sure to check if your accommodation has elevators. Some places don't have elevators, so if you're carrying all the luggages, again, back to tip number 1, don't bring too much luggages with you. Some places don't have elevators, so if that's key for you, then make sure to check in advance before you book a hotel. Next tip is don't take photos of people. Think that privacy and personal space is a lot more important in Asia and in Japan especially. So please don't use flash or selfie sticks, like don't be in other people's business. I know I was filming for my vlogs and I was very careful about when I'm filming and making sure that I'm not in people's faces about it. Or make sure to get permission before taking photos. This one is a big one, is planning when to go to Japan. So Japan is facing an over-tourism problem right now, right? So during peak times of the year, you might just want to be more mindful about when you're going. I would say that Christmas, New Year's, cherry blossom season, which is like March, April, May, are definitely the peak season. So if you can try to avoid those times. Another one to avoid is probably Lunar New Year, because everyone in Asia is going to Japan as well. This is usually like in January or February. We went during cherry blossom season and it was beautiful. If you can, that was the only time of the year that we could take time off and go. Which leads me to my next tip is if you're going during these peak times, then try to avoid going to the tourist places during peak hours. So try to go earlier or later at night and know that there's going to be a lot of people. So be a little kinder to the people around you, to yourself, be a little more respectful. We're also tourists as well. So yes, there's going to be a lot of people in Japan, but just be patient and have a little grace for everyone. Almost done, but these ones are really important. So tip number 27. Tokyo was not as baby friendly as we thought. It was a huge surprise to us. So Shirley brought Andreas, he was 4 months old at the time, and we had to have a stroller with us. And from our experience and also hearing other people's experience after we went through this was that Japanese people really do keep to themselves. So when we were on the train, no one really offered to let my sister sit, even though she was carrying the baby. Also, when we were carrying the stroller up and down stairs, if there was no elevator or escalator around, no one would offer to to help. And that was kind of surprising to us because even here in New York City, if you're carrying a lot of stuff or carrying a stroller, like people will come and help and people offer to help you here. Whereas in Japan, like no one offers, they keep to themselves. We were a little surprised by that, but you know, we're strong, independent women. So we managed between the two of us. But if you're gonna be carrying stroller, baby, big luggages, again, keep that in mind. And so with all the walking, all the carrying stuff, tip number 28, buy these to help recover from all the walking. These are like leg pads and these are shoulder and back pads. They come in these like individual packets and heat up to 40 degrees Celsius. There's like a little sticky thing. You just stick it on and then go to sleep and just feels so good. You can buy it at any of the Don Quixotes, of course, and also the convenience stores. So these ones we loved. Tip number 29, the best tip is to not overplan. Japan is a bucket list, you know, once in a lifetime place to go, and you're probably only taking a couple days off, so you want to maximize your time there. But it does get very overwhelming. There's so much to do, so I would just recommend not over planning because you're gonna get so tired and it's not gonna be as enjoyable. So what I recommend is if you're planning an itinerary, like maybe have 2, maximum 3 things on your list that you're like, I must hit these places, but otherwise, like try to give yourself a day off to just wander around and explore. I feel like those are really the best days that you'll have. At least for me, those were like the best days. You explore, you find hidden gems. There's so much in each of the cities that aren't posted online or aren't shared on TikTok or YouTube. That's one that I would really try to do for my next trip as well, is just not over planning Japan. So if you found these tips helpful or if you're looking for more specific tips, the last tip is check out my website, felisaxo.com, because I wrote so many blog posts on specific places in Japan. So like specific posts on Kyoto, Osaka, and Tokyo, on restaurants, foods, onsens. There's so much on there that I've already written up and shared. So if you found it helpful, check out my blog posts. Those are a lot of research. A lot of research and time has gone into those blog posts. So if you're looking for something more specific, you can probably find it on my blog. But if not, let me know in the comments. Or if you have other tips that other people can benefit from learning, definitely share them with us. That's it. That's all my 30 tips that I have for you. I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this helpful. And please leave a like or comment. It does really help me and supports me. So thank you so much and see you in the next video. Bye!